Hi everyone, I'm Richard Osley from the Camden Journal, and today we are video calling the leader of the council, Georgia Gould, to try and get some information about how the council is dealing with the coronavirus crisis. We have to do it by video call because everyone's social distancing. Georgia, hi, how are you doing?
I'm okay. I hope you're okay and everyone at the CNJ is keeping safe and well.
In terms of working from home, how do you think, when you look out in the streets at the moment, how do you think social distancing is going?
Look, I know it's a hugely difficult time for everyone and we've all had to adapt really quickly to living in a completely different way. But I mean, if I have one thing that I want to say today, it's just to encourage people to stay at home unless they're a key worker who has to be out. Please stay at home. You know, you can go out to get essentials and shopping, exercise around your house, but otherwise, really, our strong advice is to stay at home. You know, I want to be out as much as everyone. My grandmother died last week, and all I want is to go and see my mum and give her a big hug. But I know that people like my mum and many others might get sick, and if they go into hospital and there's not enough beds, there's not enough support, then people will lose their lives. So we have to work together as a community to stay home where possible.
And have you seen much social distancing in Camden? Do you feel that there's enough going on?
Look, I think most people are following the advice, and they are absolutely staying at home. There are, some people that aren't, and I think we just need to be really clear, working locally and nationally with people, that the advice is to stay at home and to reinforce that in every way we can. This weekend we did see too many people going out and gathering in our parks, and we've been really clear with people that if that continues, we can't keep them open, although we really want to.
Okay. And what would you say to somebody who's been told to stay at home, but maybe they're living in a kind of overcrowded flat, they haven't potentially got the right accommodation as it is? What would you say to somebody who's been told stay at home, but they feel that's the worst place for them?
Absolutely, and I know that so many of our residents are in cramped and overcrowded accommodation, and it's a huge issue. We are saying to people, you can go out for to exercise in your local area, go for a walk, just stay 2 meters away from other people. And for those that are lucky enough to have gardens or balconies, to really encourage those people to exercise in your own gardens, and so that the people who are living in those overcrowded accommodation can continue to use our open spaces and parks in a safe and responsible way.
Okay. And I know the council's done quite a lot of work on domestic violence in recent months and the last year. What about if you're kind of worried about where you live or the person you live with? What kind of advice or support is there?
Look, if you're worried at all, I would encourage you to call the council. We have a dedicated coronavirus hotline, which is 0207 974 4444 option 9, and somebody will direct you to the right services. All of our domestic violence and abuse services are still up and running. We'll be conducting welfare checks on people that we think are at risk, and we will be there to provide respite and support for those who are worried about their well-being at this time. So our services are there to support families, children, those who are at risk.
And if we talk about housing, you've got a no evictions policy. Do you want to explain how that will work in practice?
From the moment this kind of the scale of this came about, we wanted to be very clear with our tenants that nobody is going to be evicted because of this crisis. So we've written to all of our tenants and let them know that if they've got any concerns about paying their rent, to get in touch with us directly. We've had a number of people already be in touch, and we're working with them. So we've got discretionary housing support, and we can make individual arrangements. So my strong message is we don't want you to be at home scared. If you're one of our council tenants, we are there to help you get through this. So ring the hotline and somebody will support you.
And how will cleaning on this take? I know people are worried about stairwells and communal areas on this estate. What's the council doing in terms of making sure those are safe and making people feeling they're clean?
So our caretaking service is, still running, although we face the same pressures as everyone. We're all in this together, and our staff Some of them will have to self-isolate. So we are, our cleaning services are continuing, but they are under pressure. We are prioritising areas where we have a lot of vulnerable people, like sheltered housing, where we're putting extra cleaning in place, and then as on a case-by-case basis, we will come in if we hear that there's a case or that there are particular concerns, then we're putting extra support in. But those services will continue, but I can't pretend that they're not under pressure.
And is that the same case if I know your upstairs neighbour has had a leak and your ceiling falls in and everything collapses? What those kind of urgent repairs? What would you say to a tenant who's in that situation?
So we've stopped all non-urgent repairs, but we absolutely still have an urgent repairs service, and we're going in, and where people's safety is at risk, we will do those repairs. We have protective equipment now for all of our urgent repairs staff, and so even if somebody has contracted the virus or is at risk, we will still be able to go in and do those urgent repairs. And just a huge thank you to our staff that are continuing in these circumstances. It's scary, but they are still coming to work. They're providing a vital frontline service to keep residents safe. So if you've got an urgent repair, call the council as normal.
I've got to ask whether the council can do anything to help renters who feel like they would like the same kind of pledges on the private rental market.
So the government has made a no evictions for 3 months pledge, and so we appreciate that. We've been pushing very hard. We want them to do more. But in terms of our own support, if somebody is concerned, they can call the council. We have dedicated housing advice that can help negotiate with landlords or support or give advice to residents in that circumstance. And we do have a discretionary hardship fund that we can support. So again, please don't sit and worry at home. Call us on that dedicated line, 0207 974 4444 option 9, and ask for help and advice.
And I guess the same goes about businesses. A lot of small businesses particularly are worried about what this means. They're being asked to shut their pubs and plenty of music venues in Camden, restaurants, cafes. They're all being, their income goes to zero basically right now. What would be the advice for small businesses now? Yeah,
I mean, it's a terrible time for businesses and for everyone they employ. And I know it's been incredibly scary for so many people in our community. We push really hard along with the trade unions for government to come in with greater support for business, and we were really pleased that for those employed workers that there's now a guarantee of 80% support. We're still pushing for the same for self-employed workers. In terms of what we can offer, we've written to all of our businesses to offer support for those who, for many, we've set out they won't be paying business rates for a year. For those who were still asking to pay business rates, we're saying if you're in trouble, if you think you can't, give us a call and we will see if we can help you. We have a dedicated business line, which is 0207 974 6460. So for those businesses who are worried about paying rates or rents, please get in touch on that number.
Okay. And in terms of the response that we've seen so far in Camden, I've seen quite a few quite heartwarming initiatives set up. This kind of volunteering, this kind of desire to want to help neighbours, not just in Camden, but definitely it's going on in Camden. Have you seen some good examples of what's been happening?
I mean, the spirit of Camden is just unbelievable. Whenever we're in a crisis, we face difficulty, our community steps up in extraordinary ways. And I've seen that just across the borough. We've seen our community organisations like the Irish Centre, Highgate Newtown Community Centre, Age UK, I could list them for hours, all stepping up with crisis support, and we're working really closely with them. But also we've seen neighbours getting in touch, setting up mutual aid groups, seeing how they can get paracetamol, or I saw an example the other day of an urgent call for bananas that the community immediately met. So it's been so powerful, and we really support people taking that community action. But for those mutual aid groups or those new groups, we encourage you to get in touch with a volunteer centre, which is there to support you to do that in a safe way, given the virus and everything we're doing. But we've also got our own dedicated volunteer sign-up sheet, and we'll be linking people to the local communities. Maybe Richard, you can get a little website link below.
Okay, we'll try.
You can
I mean,
fill that out.
I'm interested if you feel like you can help and you're at home and you're watching this, and or you think there's something that you can do to help, but you don't know particularly where that help is best directed or how to get involved. That's one way to go onto the website.
Just by being at home, you're helping. I mean, like that just by being at home, you're saving lives. And for everyone who is at home, and I know it's tough, you know, I don't have kids, but I can imagine being at home all day with kids is incredibly difficult. And not being able to go out and enjoy this nice weather as we usually would. So thank you for being at home. Then beyond that, absolutely, I think the dedicated sign-up sheet is a really good way to do it and can link you up with opportunities. But also you might know a local organisation like Age UK or your community centre, so you can get directly in touch with them to offer support. And also donating can make a big difference. Camden Giving have got a fund where 100% of the money will go into community organisations, food banks and so on. So for those who can afford to give, that's another massive way.
If you could explain what Camden Giving is, maybe, because not everybody would, you know, dropping it in there.
So Camden Giving is an organisation that has been set up to try and bring money into the community organisations around Camden. So they have a number of businesses and funders that support them to be able to invest in small organisations who don't maybe have a capacity to apply for money themselves. So they've got really strong links into very community-based organisations that are delivering vital services at this time. And then just a really simple thing is just ringing up the people that you know who might be isolated, checking in even on a daily basis, because I know that a lot of people, their mental health will be suffering from being at home alone for long periods of time. So just by being a good neighbour, you're making a huge difference.
And in terms of one group that I think people are obviously concerned about is that people who are sleeping rough, the homeless. The council's doing something about that, are they?
Yeah, absolutely. We're working really closely with the Mayor of London. You know, we invest a huge amount in our services to support people who are sadly sleeping on our streets. We have a dedicated outreach team. We have hundreds of hostel beds, one of the biggest provisions in the country. But you know, at the moment, what we really need is spaces where people can self-isolate safely. We know that people who are homeless often have a number of other health conditions are in at real risk. So the Mayor of London has managed to find some hotel beds, but we're also using our hostel provision and looking at procuring hotel beds where necessary to make sure that everyone has somewhere safe to be.
And just in terms of the council, I mean, is the council shutting down in terms of its decision making? Are there no more council meetings now? And there's quite a full agenda that was coming up on the future of schools, and people would be wondering what will happen now. Is everything suspending, or how is the council going to tick?
Well, there's two parts. I mean, in terms of the services we're offering, we are stopping doing some things. So our libraries and leisure centres are now closed until further notice for the time being, but we're increasing our capacity in other areas. So we're increasing our support for vulnerable residents, food distribution, adult social care, trying to move people out of hospital quickly. So the council is definitely not shutting down. I mean, staff are working on a daily basis 24/7 to try and be there for our residents at this time. In terms of the normal decision making, at the moment we're stopping or postponing most meetings. We're cancelling cabinet next week, for example, where many of those issues were going to be discussed. You know, we will have some decision making that we'll be able to do virtually, but you know, we're still kind of working that out. But for the time being, the whole of the council, really, including us as political leaders, is focused on responding to this crisis. Okay.
So have you got like one last message for the people of Camden? It's stay home and that's doing enough, is it?
My message to people of Camden is thank you for all you're doing so far. The way that you stepped up has been extraordinary. You know, we'll need your help over the coming weeks. We're asking you to stay home and by doing so save lives, but also to check in on your neighbours, to sign up to volunteer, to check council messaging, and I really do believe that Camden is an extraordinary community, and if we give people the right information and stay connected, that people will come together to meet this. And I know it's going to be difficult, but I also know that if we hold together, our local newspapers, our brilliant voluntary and community organisations, and our residents, that we will get through this together.